everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Agent Economy, the intent auction. So we're going to be talking all about ChatGPT ads. And Chris, you said you had an email from ChatGPT just earlier today.
I did indeed, yeah. So I think they've gone early on the send over at the marketing department. They announced they'd launched ChatGPT ads in the UK. You're good to go. Set up your account, get running ads. But you click on the link in the email, it takes you through to a holding page saying ads aren't available in the UK. So
Amazing. Do you
I think
think
they've gone a little bit early, but
human error
yeah,
or AI error?
who knows? I imagine AI
Probably
error.
human. Do you think? Yeah, I was thinking maybe it got sent early by humans,
Yeah,
but
quite
the AI would
possibly.
have got it right, maybe.
But yeah, they're due to launch end of this week from what I've seen from the OpenAI team. So yeah, exciting.
Definitely exciting. And I think I mentioned maybe in the last podcast that I'd already been into the platform in the US, but maybe just for everyone listening, a few words about what's happening. So ads inside of ChatGPT, which has been something that's been happening in the US for a while now, but not via self-serve, only via managed service. And then more recently, self-serve came to the US and it's now rolling out into other markets and hopefully happening in the UK later this week, pending, I guess, the information that came through to you on email earlier today, Chris. But we're talking about a self-serve platform, so you can log in, you can build your own ads. I think there's some really interesting things that have been announced over the last couple of weeks, and also when you go in there and have a look at the platform, which we'll talk about. But the bidding options, you can do CPC as well as CPM. So I think in there, if I'm not mistaken, you can choose between the two, right?
That's right. Yep.
Is my understanding. And CPC being a lot more like the lower funnel ads that we see in retail media, and then CPM being more like the kind of awareness driving ads that you see maybe on a platform more like Meta and some of the Google advertising options. And then they've importantly already built measurement through. So there's a pixel that you can install to make sure that you actually track that conversion, and you can see, if you ran an ad, did someone come to your site and did they check out and buy? And then interestingly, we've got on here some of the agency partners that they've gone live with already. So if you're a big brand, then you might already deal with Dentsu, Omnicom, Publicis, WPP, etc. And you can, of course, run ads through those guys. But then it's also true that it's a self-serve platform. So if you're a brand, you can get set up now and you can start to run ads, or you certainly can do in the US, and you will be able to in the UK later this week. And then, Chris, I've been added as an agency partner to those ads. So my understanding is right now you can't create an agency partner account. You can create an account to run ads, and then you can invite people to it. So there's two brands who've set an account up in the US, and then they've invited me to it, and then I can log in and I can actually toggle between those different brands. So I think for now, that seems like the way they're going to be setting it up. And it did take, I think, quite a long time for platforms like Meta and Google and Amazon to actually build the agency infrastructure on top of their self-serve platforms, right? So I mean, they seem to be doing everything a lot quicker, but my guess is that they'll build the platform and then they'll build the agency, almost like managing layer on top of it at a later
Yeah,
date.
for sure. Yeah, it'll be advertiser accounts initially, and I've set mine up for Blackbird. I'm in the process of doing it for another couple of other clients, but then the MCC type setup will be layered in at a later date. Yeah, it's interesting seeing the agency and ad tech partners, because it is a self-service platform and it's very, very simplistic at the moment. So you've got a lot of clients that are going to potentially be paying agencies and ad tech to manage these campaigns, when realistically you can set them up in like 2 minutes. So it's, I think that will change obviously as the platform and as the capabilities develop. But in this initial period, if you want to save money, just do it yourself.
For sure. And then one thing maybe that surprised me was, I guess, we talk about how these ads should work, and then we'll come on to maybe a bit more detail about the platform. But it's funny that you can't prompt those ads into existence yet. It's still like a classical SaaS platform, right? It's like log in, enter these details, change your bid. It's not a conversation to build the ads. But I wonder if they'll get there soon. So, I mean, what are these ads? What are they doing? I guess these ads in ChatGPT, as we spoke about, they're going to sit at the bottom of the answer, so they're not going to be in the answer. And I think ChatGPT have been quite, let's say, they've communicated quite openly that they don't expect to ever do that. I think they're always going to make the ads around the answer. I mean, let's see. It might be true that ads come first and then an answer, and then another ad in the future, or ads might come in the middle of the answer. But in theory, they're going to be clear about when it is an ad. And I think it's interesting too, because when these ads were first announced and when we first thought the ads were going to come through, I'm like, oh, this is a lower funnel CPC opportunity, just like Google was in the early days. But of course, they started with CPM and now they've got CPM and CPC. And so like the way to think about it is definitely different from how we've thought about running ads on Google previously, and the sort of like, let's call it vanilla CPC advertising strategy of just appearing high for keywords, right? That's not what this is. It's now more about monetizing the context of the consumer. And I think that's where it gets really interesting on targeting, right? Because in theory, we're not targeting keywords, are we, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be targeting users at different stages of the journey. Importantly, you're going to be, the entire funnel is going to be in this particular ecosystem. So I think the targeting currently is limited, but I expect that to change over time. And obviously being able to monetize at different areas and different parts of the user journeys. Still in its infancy and more to come for sure. I think thinking back to the Google ecosystem at the very start, there's a famous image of Google saying, "We are just a search engine. We will never show ads." Then obviously ads were introduced. And if you look at the iteration of the ad ecosystem within Google over time, it's just more and more ads, and then making the ads look more like organic listings. So I think ChatGPT, OpenAI running at such a significant deficit, advertising's easy money. You're going to see more ad slots appear over time for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And also, interesting point as well. I know someone who's got a ChatGPT free account. I didn't get this because I pay for all of my AI at the moment. I need to probably wean myself off some of them. But they're on a free version of ChatGPT, and they got sent an email this week saying, "Hey, XYZ, just to let you know, adverts are going to be appearing in your chat soon. This is why we're doing it. This is how they're going to be placed. This is, the truth about how ads are going to be versus the answers, continuing that narrative of, they're never going to be in the answer. They're just going to be around the answer." And so for sure it's happening any day now in the UK. And I think the interesting thing about targeting, like you mentioned, is when we're thinking about these ads and how we target the ads and what the use case is for the ads. So it is a different way to think about it, right? Because certain queries, as we know, are like entry level, upper funnel queries to a topic, right? So let's think about a category. Maybe I'm in the category of, I want to get a new bike, and I'm like, hey, should I buy a mountain bike or a road bike? Right? That is quite like upper funnel, like starting out on my journey of figuring out whether I should buy a bike versus I want to buy, I don't know, model name, but like I want to buy a specialized bike in this size and this color, which is like I'm in market to buy, go find me the product that I want, and then I'm probably going to check out, which would be lower funnel. And so I think the thing as advertisers and marketers we need to figure out is like, when we're doing the targeting, like how are we defining where someone is in the funnel based on the context that we've got about them, and when do we want to show an ad? And presumably an ad shown at that upper funnel level isn't going to have as higher ROI on click through to purchase in a short window as something that's much lower down, right? Where you're in market for making a purchase. So all that stuff I think is wide open for interpretation stroke understanding, and people are going to need to build strategies around it pretty quickly, I think, if they're going to be able to leverage being a kind of a first mover in this space.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of similarities with what we do in AI visibility, right? In terms of generating the initial prompt set to track. So where are they in that particular category? Is it, problem solution? Is it information gathering? Is it competitor consideration? So I think a lot of the heavy lifting you're doing in AI search optimization actually translates quite nicely into ads. You can definitely piggyback off of some of the work you've done there to help inform your advertising strategy.
100%. And I think and maybe we'll come on to it a bit later, but in terms of like, what are you going to put in the context hint window, which is the main part where you're looking at the targeting at the moment for ChatGPT. So instead of like selecting demographics or selecting keywords, it's just a free text box. I think all of the work that you do on organic AI search optimization and visibility is going to help you to figure out that faster. So another kind of, I guess, nudge to people to be thinking about that, both for the organic visibility, but also to get, let's say, a leg up on the paid opportunity too. And then just a short word on like where the ads are going to sit. We've said this before, but just, it's going to be below where the answer is. It's going to be clear who the advertiser is and the advertiser name, and then there's going to be some copy that you can put in, and then you can have an image asset as well. So visuals are obviously going to be important. Testing out what visuals work in the ChatGPT environment. My guess is that we can take some information from Meta ads and Google display ads and help us to inform what good images might work on ChatGPT. But my other guess is that it won't be the same type of imagery that works necessarily in ChatGPT that works on display ads through the Google Display Network or on Meta as well, right? I just think it's going to be different because people are in different mindsets and frame of thinking when they're having a chat conversation versus scrolling through Facebook and Instagram versus on a news site and seeing one of these adverts pop up from Google maybe.
Yeah, this one's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out, the different formats, whether it's going to be multimedia or just remain as is. But I think, this is an evolution, like I say, in its infancy, and it will develop because there's going to be a hell of a lot of demand from the marketers. Importantly as well, it's useful to people to understand that they're doubling down on hiring over at OpenAI in this space. You're going to start to see, obviously, demand from the marketer side. They have the AI technologies, but they've also got a significant workforce now over at ChatGPT that's going to be basically building this out. So
Sure.
they're going all in on this. It's a serious play.
For sure. And then I'll say a bit more about context hints and what that means and how you do the advertising. But actually, before we do that, I did read the other day that so when you're building the ads, it gives you a recommended bid on the CPC ones, right? To say, this is what you should set the bid at. And it's like $3, $3.50, $4, something like that. Whilst the inventory is now high and the demand, so the supply is higher than the demand at the moment because people are only just starting to do this, then one, let's say, quick win is like just you can reduce the bids below what the suggested is and still hit, right? So I think because the inventory is like significant and the demand is going to build over time, but it's not quite there yet, there's an opportunity to like bid a little bit lower at the start. So reco to anyone who's building ads to maybe think about just bringing those bids down slightly at the start, but obviously keep an eye on them because you might find that you have to lift them back up again once there's a little bit more demand on the platform. Context hints. So this is super interesting. When I saw this box, I actually got quite excited on the ad platform. So you're going through, you put in the bid, you put in what you're advertising, your advertiser name, the copy, the image, but you need to decide what to do on targeting. And it's a free text box. And it just says, here's the context hint, or give a context hint, right? And it says topics and situations that the user brings to ChatGPT. It's essentially trying to understand like in what way or what context should we show an ad. And what it's not specifically is it's not an exact match keyword list. So what you shouldn't be putting in there is a whole string of keywords that you want your product to appear for. You need to be describing a situation or describing a use case for your product so that the model knows when to show it. I think there's going to be a ton of testing that needs to be done to figure this out, right? So is it's presumably you start, I think, with some short context hints and layer in longer context hints, and then run those ads alongside each other and see whether adding more detail to context hints, which in theory should be narrowing the audience to a more specific audience for your product, is actually helpful and has a higher ROI. And I think there'll be a lot of testing across that to figure out like what's a sort of a perfect context hint for your brand, your category, your subcategory, so that your ads show and fire at the right time, and then people are likely to click on them and then go through to purchase.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it makes sense. I think this is super interesting. Again, tying AI search optimization into ads. You can start to do some clever stuff here and track for a particular brand, maybe where visibility is poor for a certain given topic, and then double down from an advertising standpoint to make sure you've got presence there as you build your visibility in organic over time. So combining the two is a great opportunity to identify gaps and maybe double down where you've got strengths that you want to own, not only the initial response, but also supplement it with advertising. So the two worlds are coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really good one about visibility gaps, right? Which could look like, let's say your shampoo brand and you have loads of visibility around, let's say, repairing damaged hair, right? As one area. But you don't have a lot of visibility around building volume in hair, right? Or like making hair voluminous. And so actually when it comes to running ads, you might think, well, actually it's probably worth investing a bunch of money in the context hints around our shampoo is great for creating voluminous hair or whatever the related terms are, which means that when people are asking questions about that, your ads are firing where you don't have any organic visibility. There's also then the question of, like, should we also try and fire ads where we already have good organic visibility? And probably the answer to that at the beginning is yes, and probably those ads will work a little bit better as well. It's a bit like bidding on your own brand term, which I know is like slightly contentious topic in Amazon and also on Google. I think when you're a small brand and you're less well known, it's an important thing to do. When you become a big brand, a mass brand, I think you can wean yourself off it, and you don't need to do that anymore. You can just focus on, let's say, the generics, the places where you don't have as much visibility. So super interesting to see how this plays out. But loads of optimization work and testing, I think, that will need to be done to figure out what's the right thing to have in the context hints. But again, got very excited about this because it's different from other ad platforms. And then I think, Chris, for people like you and me, where we've been in this game for quite a while now, understanding how these models work, hopefully that gives us a bit of an edge as to what to actually put into the context hints for these ads so that they work really well. And then I don't know if you want to say anything on like the auction style of things, and how that compares across Google, Meta, Amazon, and ChatGPT. Seemingly it's going to work slightly differently, and the mechanics of the auctions are different across all the different platforms, right? I think they don't all work exactly in the same way.
Yeah, so this is going to be, again, this will develop over time, but you're going to start to see more like relevance weighting for this particular ecosystem. So again, going back to what we were saying before, do you, as an entity, as a brand, do you have a really good presence in this space already? Like damaged hair, for example. Do you have authority in this space? Do you have a lot of credible citations and information and thought leadership around that particular topic? If you do, you're obviously going to have stronger visibility in that initial response. And then when it comes to the advertising, obviously, is that going to downstream impact your CPCs and be positive for you because you're obviously credible in this space already? So it's definitely going to be a factor that they build into this, and you're ultimately, because it's going to deliver a better experience for the user. Users seeing a brand come up as a response, which is credible in that initial answer, and then being able to supplement that with advertising just makes for a better experience. So
For
for
sure.
those brands that are building visibility and authority in certain areas, it's going to be cheaper for you when it comes to advertising, is my bet. And like I say, user experience is the key thing here, right? So if you've got best CRM software and you've got a list of 5 different CRM platforms, and then you've got HubSpot, which wasn't in the initial response, just coming in as an ad slot at the end, that's a bad user experience. So I think, the relevance weighting is going to be key.
For sure, absolutely. And it'd be really interesting to see how that works, and then to what extent like adjacent products and services fit in that relevance calculation. So let's go back to the shampoo example. Like if someone's asking ChatGPT about the right shampoo to buy, like is there relevance in showing that person a hair comb, a shower cap, a conditioner product as well, because they're already in market for those products, which if you think about it from Google keyword point of view, like you probably wouldn't put an advert for a comb on a keyword for shampoo necessarily, because you probably wouldn't convert particularly well. On Meta, yeah, you could do some audience targeting, and I think that would work. On Amazon, it wouldn't work again because you wouldn't have the retail intent when someone's definitely wanting to buy a shampoo for those other products. And I just wonder on ChatGPT to what extent it will kind of lock in on like the highest converting product versus what's contextually relevant to the conversation that the consumer's having. So I guess probably it's going to index towards, or it's going to optimize towards making the ads as effective as possible, which means making sure there's as many clicks and purchases that happen off the adverts. So I think a couple of early categories where we're seeing some let's say traction, or like where there's let's say some action in ads. So I think at the moment OpenAI is not putting ads on all prompts. It's really like a low percentage at the moment that are triggered. I think part of that is the demand. So like there's only a number of advertisers that are out there running these ads. And so as more demand comes, that will go up. But my guess is, they won't jump immediately to 100% of prompts. So most of the time when ads are shown, it's just one ad that's shown. I hadn't really thought about, Chris, you're in a conversation, you see an ad, you ask another question, you get another ad, you ask another question, you get another ad. All of those ads could be different. And then you're like, I wonder in the advertising in the future, you're like, hey, if, I don't know, Tresemme run an ad in an answer to one question or around one prompt, like, can you make sure our brand XYZ, whatever the shampoo brand
Yeah.
is, also shown on the on the next one as well? I wonder if that targeting option comes.
Yeah, it's a great point I hadn't actually thought of in terms of like the user experience you're retaining in a single window.
Yeah,
So you're going to have an auction, you're going to have a bid unit where you'll have sequential advertising. So you appear for the next 5 responses, for example. So
yeah.
yeah, that's a good one I
It
hadn't
could be,
thought of.
couldn't it? Yeah, that's super interesting. If you're like, hey, if once our ad gets displayed once, even if the user goes off on a different tangent, like of queries and questions, like can we make sure our ad still gets placed? And that might be a bit like, so on Amazon you get you basically can choose options which mean that like on certain keywords when there's high relevance to your product, etc., like they'll bump you to the top, but you'll pay extra to be bumped to the top. And so it could be the same thing where it's like, hey, if my ad gets triggered once, we will pay a premium to make sure our ad gets also shown the next 2 or 3 times as well. So you get that like sort of, continuation of your products being shown to the consumer. That could be really interesting.
I think you're
And
right.
then,
Yeah, there'll be a premium on top as the user gets more and more qualified throughout the funnel. You're going to want to pay more, right? So
yeah, I
yeah,
think so. It could, and then I wonder if you'll get preferential treatment if you were the ad showing previously just because of the high context and relevance. But yeah, all of that stuff's still to be figured out and worked out. Few topics that are like restricted at the moment, understandably. Certain areas around health and politics, you're not allowed to run ads for, and we do know across other platforms, there are restrictions around ads that are of political nature. You have to sort of declare on Google, don't you, whether you're running political ads or not. And I think it's interesting that they're starting with those areas restricted, and it makes sense, and they should be. And there is, I think, at the moment, the regulation around it's probably not quite where it needs to be, so it'll probably catch up in the next couple of years. But it seems like they're taking, I think, the right approach in that respect. And then at the moment, what we're seeing is the prompts that trigger the most ads are, the ones that are saying, "Hey, what's the best X? What's this near me? Can you compare X versus Y?" Which, of course, we know are the lower funnel type of queries, right? The lower funnel type of prompts where people are more in market for purchasing, which of course means running an ad is probably going to be more effective there as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on this, and for sure in a future episode we'll be sharing some more detail about what's going on with the various different let's say trends that are happening with these ChatGPT ads. And then a couple of things on measurement. I know, Chris, you know a lot about conversion, UTMs, pixels, those kind of things. It all seems pretty straightforward and standard stuff at the moment in that respect.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's nothing too crazy on this. I think on the initial launch, obviously the model was CPM. There was no conversion tracking, but now that you can obviously implement your conversion pixel, which is great if you're tracking on page. But yeah, I expect more to come from this, UTMs, conversion APIs, all of that good
Yeah,
stuff. But yeah, it's good they launched the conversion pixel early,
for sure.
and it's not just turn the taps on and pray.
For sure. And I can't remember whether we talked about this last time or not, but I've seen with some of my clients a big jump in referral traffic from ChatGPT recently. That's because ChatGPT changed their approach to when they mentioned brand names. Previously, it was just the name was mentioned, people were clipping that, going to Google, searching it, finding the product, checking out. Now, when they mention a brand, it's hyperlinked. So when you click on it, you obviously can track that track that traffic through and see it on your website. And so we knew it was happening. We knew people were finding products in ChatGPT or brands in ChatGPT and then going to their website. We just didn't have the tracking visibility. And now that they've started hyperlinking a lot more, we're seeing that actually visible in a lot of the Google Analytics, which is cool to see.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe like bringing us on to, let's say, the topic that we'll talk about in the next episode, which is agentic commerce. So, this sort of discovery of brands inside of ChatGPT, we've known for a long time that leads to, more sales of product, or it's just a different way for people to find product. But then the idea is that you're then going to go and check out and buy. We've seen that traffic that comes from ChatGPT is actually converting at a higher rate, normally because, or the hypothesis being, they've sort of troubleshooted their problem inside the chat. They've gone down the funnel, they've worked out what the solution is to the problem, and then they've been recommended a product and they're going to go off and then make a purchase. And we're now getting a lot closer to all of those things happening. We did hear about some backsteps from ChatGPT and agentic commerce. Essentially, they realized it's really hard to be the merchant of record for all of these transactions across multiple different suppliers, websites, all those kind of things. But they've essentially come up with a fairly neat solution with Shopify, where Shopify just does everything essentially. And so we've got this, let's say, challenge stroke opportunity for brands to make sure, if a customer's in market for buying a product, they've seen an ad, they want to go through and make a purchase, like how do they get straight through to making a purchase? And those shopping feeds, product feeds, data feeds going into ChatGPT, essentially like really simple and straightforward to do on Shopify. But if you're not with Shopify, you can actually use Shopify to do that feed. So that's pretty interesting. That's going to mean that maybe there's sort of even more reason to be on Shopify in the future. And then, of course, this paid discovery now, where essentially, those ads can now be shown inside the chat. And so if a shopping card's not shown by ChatGPT, but an ad is, you might be clicking and then going through to the retail site to make a purchase. And so in either instance, whether it's a shopping cart inside of ChatGPT or an ad that takes you to the retailer website, you're still essentially checking out on the merchant's own site, rather than what was planned in the past by ChatGPT was maybe that you'd actually check out through them. But that doesn't seem like it's a business model that's going to stick for now. But I think the idea of checking out on the merchant's own site, especially as Shopify is so sort of ubiquitous everywhere, mostly for D2C sites, and with Shop Pay, it's really easy to check out. I just think this will be the model that works and sticks from my perspective. I don't know if you've got a slightly different view on that, Chris, at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I was again I seem to be pretty bullish on everything AI at the moment, but I thought ChatGPT would have the nous and the capabilities to bring it internally into their ecosystem. But yeah, it's played out, at least initially, it's just too complex for them to manage.
For sure.
I think for them, the 4% take rate, I think it was like another kind of land grab and revenue opportunity. But they've seen actually advertising is much, much easier to roll out. So that's like a phase one approach. I have no doubt that it will eventually roll in as the technology
Yeah,
develops, but it was a nice, easy win for them to partner more closely with Shopify and let them do a lot of the heavy lifting.
totally.
I think it's a smart play, smart to do it now. It will change over time. But yeah,
Yeah.
advertising is really where they're going to make that easy buck.
For sure. And then the interesting thing, I think, will be, when shopping cards are shown, which isn't all the time, right? I think it's only like single digit number of queries where shopping cards are shown, where people can compare products and then maybe go out to make a purchase, or maybe like 10-15%. Where are the ads when those show? Like ads shown and the shopping cards, or when it gets to the point where they're showing shopping cards, are they actually showing ads anymore, or do they get placed there? And I actually haven't seen any detail around that. So it'd be really interesting to see how that bit plays out too. So I guess maybe bringing it all together and closing out why all this matters for brands. I think, as you've already said, Chris, important to understand organically where you stand, because that's going to then really help your strategy and the way you go, the tactics that you use to run ChatGPT ads. I think ChatGPT ads are going to be really sort of important part of the advertising stack for brands in the future. Maybe not like immediately right now, but certainly in 12, 18, 24 months, I think that's going to be really important. And I think when it comes to having a product that you're selling online and the things that you need to be true for both the organic and the paid opportunity to work really well for you, of course, having product pages super clear with structured claims, like that product feed and data quality going into the models, whether it's via Shopify or natively in Shopify or via Shopify. And then I think if you are running ads and then you're sending people off site or off of platform, off of ChatGPT to your retail site, like having those landing pages aligned to intent. And what I mean by that is, if you've got an ad firing on the context of how your shampoo is good for, we talked before, right? Maybe you're showing up for damaged hair, but not for giving volume to hair. So if you've been running ads with the context of how your shampoo is good for voluminous hair or creating hair with volume in it, then when someone clicks on your ad, really you want to be going to a landing page which is talking about that same thing, right? It's why that brand is so good for creating volume in your hair with that shampoo. and the same with the ad copy, all linking through. None of that is new, right? That's not a new way of doing things, right? It's all like 101, or like not necessarily 101 basics, but like the way you should think about running ads, in that the consumer journey should be fairly seamless across those different platforms. So they're seeing and reading similar themes and copy and content in all those different places, so that nothing's a surprise to them when they get to the next step. And I think that's been true in other forms of advertising and will be true in ChatGPT advertising as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think this is a nice, clear kind of takeaway for brands thinking about this and obviously exploring it. So yeah, that's good.
Nice. And then last few words, I guess, yeah, our recommendations for people, Chris, it would be, this feels like a new optimization game. We've already been talking about the optimization game of organic. There's now a sort of a new layer, which is adding in paid as well. But I guess, Chris, in your mind, I mean, you said earlier, organic's still important, right? We don't want to be like ignoring the organic bit and going all to paid, do we?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen a lot of people get excited about ChatGPT ads, get excited about new inventory. Obviously, there's a lot of media agencies, ad tech partners partnering closely with OpenAI. I think it's just a bit of a marketing spiel at the moment to partner with one of the largest organizations out there. For me, it's another inventory type, but it's important to understand that the ad slot itself is small. It's below the fold. It's below the initial response. It's still in its infancy. It's still pretty limited. But it's important to kind of double down and make sure that you're the answer first. You can't really crowbar your way into this with media dollars. You have to be that answer first, and then supplement it through advertising. So there's a lot of noise and a lot of conversations happening out there. But I think before you even touch this, it's important to get a really good understanding of what does my visibility look like across key topics, key prompts, and where are the gaps, I think is important before you kind of double down with media agencies, ad tech partnerships, and then turning the taps on with ChatGPT ads. It's you got to do a bit of a health check before.
Yeah, absolutely. And so definitely excited about ChatGPT ads, but don't jump straight to it and dive in and start running ads if you haven't already looked at your organic position and understand how the LLMs currently think about your brand, right? I think that would be a good way to close it. And then we said, following on from this, episode 9 will be all about agentic commerce. So we're talking more about MCPs, UCPs, and the pipe, the information all flowing into these models, how you can make sure your brand is well set up for that, so that when people are ready to buy something based on a conversation they have with ChatGPT, whether they see an ad or it's organic, you're ready and available for them to buy it inside the chat. So we're talking more about that in the next episode. And Chris, I think we'll close it there.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for listening. Catch you in the next one.
Bye for now.